Order on Monday, September 19th. Time is 6:08. Please rise, pay respects to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of the nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who's going to take roll?
Well, that's the secretary's responsibility.
That would be me,
Yeah,
Bizzardi,
yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Kremen, absent. Dunn, here. Hunway,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Gino, Malaya,
Excused.
Schultz,
Here?
Sure.
Here.
All right.
Do you need a motion to excuse Jerry and Gino?
Yeah, Jerry and Gino both have
called
contacted
in.
staff.
Okay, I'll make a motion to excuse them.
I'll support that.
Been moved to support to excuse Jerry and Gino. Any discussion? All in favor?
Hold
Okay.
on, hold on.
What if we don't,
hold
excuse them?
Hold on a second. I should say I'm taking minutes tonight as well because Joe is absent.
That's what I wanted to make sure, that the secretary was not going to be taking.
If you'd like to take minutes, I
would
would
not.
welcome and encourage that.
I would not.
Okay. So who made the motion? My apologies.
Sarda made the motion and Dunn seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Have the approval of the proposed agenda?
So moved.
Support. That's Dunn and Bissardet.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same thing. The August 15th regular meeting minutes?
If there are no questions, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Dunn, support by Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Public comment on non-agenda items.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Gustafson. I'm the director of NODA. NODA is for those of you who don't know, the bus company that serves the residents of Oxford, Orion, and Addison Townships. And I am here tonight because NODA is considering an expansion of going into having a downtown trolley that would serve the downtown areas of Lake Orion and Oxford and promote the businesses along the way. So I'm here because our NODA board had suggested that we go into the community and see what an interest is, and so that's why I'm here. I'm not on the agenda. I'm going to ask to be put on the agenda for next month to kind of go into more detail about it, but I thought I would just at least present the idea to you so you can have some time to think about it. The proposed plan would have a fixed route that would start on the south end in Lake Orion at the Kmart and would come up through the downtown area of Lake Orion, and then it would go into the downtown area of Oxford up to Myers, and then it would come back around to the Legacy Center, the downtown Oxford again, and then back around and loop, stopping at the businesses along the way. So I think this would promote, obviously, keeping your residents in town, promote the businesses, would drop them off door-to-door service. I think it also would give you an old town feel for your communities. You know, have a little bell as you ring the bell, and it's just an idea. And this, you can also use the trolley for any special events during the year that can actually even be used in the winter if we have other special events. The idea would be to go from May 1st to September 30th to begin, Thursdays through Sundays. And so like Friday and Saturday would be like 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. So you could promote the restaurants and bars, movie theaters, whatnot, and still be able to circle around. We're proposing a nominal $1 fee to ride the trolley. And it could also help with parking in the downtown areas, as you could park in Kmart or Myers and then ride in if there's, events going on or if there's parking issues. And there's also an app that the public can download on their smartphone, and it's kind of like Uber. They can track the trolley, so they can see where the trolley is, when it's going to be there, so they don't know if they can, stay in the grocery store a little longer or in the shop and shop a little longer, so they're not outside waiting. A similar service was started in Grosse Pointe a few years ago, and it's been a huge success. The public really love it because they enjoy riding it, and the businesses love it because it's bringing customers to them. So it's kind of a win-win, and it's just a nice Old Town feel to it. So I'm bringing this idea just to see if there's an interest. I think it obviously would help the businesses downtown. And also to see, I've also included what our budget is. It's a budget of about a $45,000 loss, and I guess I'm coming to the DDA to see if they could possibly consider helping fund that loss to kind of get us up and running. I know that NODA collects a millage. We collect a quarter mill, and some of those dollars are captured by the DDA. So I know for Oxford, you've captured $4,000 roughly in our tax revenue. So be asking if you can consider possibly returning those funds or any additional so we can get going. But I just wanted to bring the idea to you. I'd be willing to answer any questions during the month, and I'd be happy to come back next month and discuss it further. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Not for public comment, no. Put it on the agenda for next month.
Comment about NODA?
Pardon?
Go ahead.
Yep. Any other just public comment? Consent agenda?
I'll have public comment.
Oh, excuse me.
I am a resident, 14 Dennison. I would not like to charge anything. Again, the residents of the communities already pay a millage. I think we ought to try to get advertising, donations, whatever. It's going to benefit a lot of places, especially the bars and restaurants. I mean, it's a case where we just get out there and try to get some donations. I think it's important, the people are paying, is it $0.25 CJ? Already? And I would feel bad about charging $1. It just...
Nominal.
Comment.
Rod?
Take turns.
You a village resident? See what I started?
I won't say. One of the things I learned about NODA, by the way, and talking with Eric Wilson, is how efficiently it's run. So aside from other things that are going on, but I've heard that consistently about how you guys are very diligent about keeping costs under control. So that's a real positive. So keep up the good work.
It's very good. Thank you. All right. Any other public comment? Seeing none. Consent agenda?
Per usual, the executive director's report is included in your packet. Over the last month, there's been a lot of progress on a number of fronts. Concerts in the Park series has come to a close, and over the course of the summer, we showcased 12 evenings in downtown Oxford at no cost to visitors. Concerts were generally attended between 100 and 200 attendees, and of course, this fluctuated due to weather conditions and what band was playing, et cetera. 2 surveys were conducted, and we'll talk about those a little bit later this evening. The DDA-owned parcels on East Burdick Street have gone through their site plan approval for redevelopment with the Planning Commission, and that has all been approved by the Village Council, so that is moving forward. So this project is 2 years in the coming, and even longer if you figure in the time that the DDA has owned those lots. But a big thank you to Dave Weckel, who sees the vision for downtown Oxford. Thank yous to Chris Coy, our village planner, Bob Davis, our village attorney, and the many volunteers who sit on the ER committee, our Main Street ER committee, who have reviewed the plans and agreements for both the DDA and the Village Planning Commission. This is the first time in many years a new building has come into downtown Oxford, so staff will work closely with Mr. Weckel to assist in finding tenants for the spaces that are being constructed. We're going to be planning a groundbreaking ceremony at some point as well. Once we have, firmed up, he's got some engineering work that needs to be done for the building department, et cetera. So this is still potentially, it's not going to happen tomorrow kind of thing. It's still going to be, a few weeks, maybe even months in the process. a major step forward in strengthening our preservation ethic. We did receive word from the State Historic Preservation Office that downtown Oxford, the traditional part of downtown, is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. You may recall the intern project that our intern from Eastern Michigan concluded earlier this year, that reconnaissance level survey of the architecture downtown. They being the State Preservation Office were impressed with the work that was done, and based on the buildings that we have, the architecture that we have, it is eligible for the National Register. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in greater detail in a few moments, because there's a program out there that can assist with that. So volunteer hours for August 18.5, that again are our Main Street committees. That does not take into account any community events, Lone Ranger, et cetera. And certainly 18.5 hours is a drop in the bucket compared to some of the other things that were going on in the community beyond just the DDA. Still doing the weekly updates with Pete. We did receive 3 board interest applications. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. I met with Lee with Main Street to determine some more of the details on the tech visit. Available properties list is still, that's ever changing, ever evolving. So about once a month, I try to call back the realtors on there and make sure that those properties are still up to date, add new ones, et cetera. I've attended the planning commissions regularly, at least in the past couple months leading up to the Weckel project, Village Council work study session to advocate for the Weckel project, and so forth. MDOT, this is really more for future discussion, but just to put it on your radar, MDOT has determined that 2019 is the funding year for the M24 project. Now, what that means is that that's the year that it will be funded, and from my understanding, the year that construction will begin to take place. And so the ER committee is really behind this and has really been out in front of it too, in a certain sense. I have visited with Rochester to gauge how they did their process a few years ago. We took a trip to Saline. The board has been proactive at reserving funds towards this project. So the ER committee will meet later this week, and with this new information from MDOT, make some determinations and figure out our next steps. The ER committee doesn't have a recommendation for the board at this point, other than we're leaning towards, we want to do a task force that is a committee of interested community members who will solely be dedicated to this project for the next 2.5, 3 years. It's going to be a huge project. We're going to need a lot of community support, community input into the design, but we're also going to need to ensure that our businesses stay promoted, stay open, and so forth. So multifaceted project. I know it's just kind of a one-liner in the report, but that's because there's a lot more details that need to be figured out before we bring a more formal report to the board. I attended a preservation training with Oakland County. I've been talking with State Preservation Office. We have facade grant programs that are active, or one that's active, one that's pending. We'll discuss tonight. 8 North Washington, the restored leaded glass window that was reinstalled looks beautiful. And I was there when the contractor was putting it in and got some cool shots. Really, when it was sitting there and she pointed out, I would have never known the difference. You could kind of see, where things had been replaced and restored, but to somebody who is not familiar with that process, you'd never know the difference. It looks like a brand-new window that is 100 and however many years old it is. So kudos to Dorothy Johnston to move in a direction on that project that is saving that historic framework and material. On the promotion side, concerts wrapped up, concerts in the park are done, so that's good. Social media is still on the increase of 37 followers on the Facebook side, 22 on the Instagram side. Newsletter is still getting out there. The DIA Inside Out artwork has been installed, but I just received the print materials from them for promotional, and that's, as you can see noted here, 2 months late. They had some change in staff on their marketing team, so everything was late. So those paintings are still up, and we still encourage people to go check those out. Scarecrow Festival, there's the sponsors listed there. We'll talk about Scarecrow in a little bit. So with that, that is the executive director's report for September.
I'll move to receive and file.
I have a question.
Motion.
Who has
Support. Rod, for discussion?
On the 2000, on the MDOT, when does that have to be into the state?
Well, they're working on their analysis right now and their surveys. Because of the construction to the north and the south, the traffic counts aren't what they normally are, and so those will be completed at the end of this year. In February, MDOT will begin hosting their stakeholder meetings that they will have within the community. They will want to know things like, what do we want to see for streetscape improvements, things of that nature. And so those will happen after the first of the year. February is what they're telling me right now.
So February is when they get the input on, I
On
think you
design.
said before, there's a basic that's included, and if you want to upgrade it,
Essentially, it's going to be ripped out, at least in the traditional downtown, it'll be down to the dirt from storefront to storefront. So we will have to determine once it gets all, they're going to build the road, obviously, and then some. But as a community, we'll need to determine, what do the street poles look like and the benches and things like that, if those are indeed things that we want to have. And, there's a TAP grant that will assist in paying for all that. There's a certain percentage, I believe, I don't know the percentage, but there is a percentage for the scope of work that deals with aesthetics. But that percent of the overall project budget won't include things like street lamps and benches and trash receptacles. The ones that we currently have are dated, and I encourage us to consider, replacing those, the ones that need to be replaced and so forth. So certainly a lot more details that need to be worked out.
Rod?
would that be a time to look at traffic lights too?
That would be a time that, yes, that's correct. So some of the discussions with MDOT are ready. We had a scoping meeting back in, I believe, spring of the year, March. And at that time, we did say that we'd like to see some additional traffic lights. Be great to see one at East Street, and that would help facilitate more pedestrian walkability. Be great to see one at Stanton Dennison as well. However, the engineers at MDOT and the design company would have to, make sure that that fits with their, equations and things like that. But they are going to listen to us. They are going to take into our wants and needs as they build the design. So there's certainly a lot of pieces and parts to it.
Sue?
We're also looking at putting one at Minnetonka, too.
In Minnetonka, that's correct. And there has been some ideas floating out there that, how do we figure out how to, get a left turn lane or things like that, or, is a roundabout possible? Just all sorts of ideas. I think nothing is off the table at this point, because that's what they want to hear is, what do you want to see, and can we make it work in the design and so forth. So it's going to be a huge project, and we're going to need a lot of community support, business support, but we need to support the other direction too. We need to support the businesses to ensure that they are, stay open through this process.
So it's going to be torn up for approximately how long?
And that has yet to be determined. In the case of Rochester, there were incentives tied to the project to encourage that contractor to meet deadlines faster. And then there were also penalties built in if deadlines were not built, deadlines not met. To be determined, and this, again, it's really too early to tell. Again, I'm not a traffic engineer, but once they have their traffic counts and their analysis and things like that, the engineers at MDOT will have a better understanding of, how do we reroute traffic and to where, how could we Could we tear up just one side, leaving two lanes of travel, or would it be a complete road closure? In Rochester's case, they went with a complete road closure. So their traditional part of downtown, those blocks were completely closed, completely cut. I don't want to say cut off, that you could still access the businesses from behind. But again, there were incentives in that project to ensure that those closures, the time span of those were minimized. So again, too early to tell all this, and certainly the engineers at MDOT will have a better handle once we have traffic counts, et cetera.
What one thought might be, in terms of communicating this to people downtown, would be, could also be an opportunity to do a lot of facade grants at the same time if the road's going to be closed or slowed down, or whatever you want to call it, because if someone's going to close down their business for a while, maybe that's the time to do it.
Yeah, there is potential there. And in the case of Saline, when the committee took a field trip there, Saline Main Street, their Main Street is a nonprofit. Just to clarify, it's a little different than the DDA. But they consulted with a structural engineer. There were a couple businesses that had foundations that had some issues. And so while it was all tore up, that's a good time to do some work on the foundation kind of thing. So my thinking is that the task force that we put together that will focus on this will address some of these concerns and potentials and see where we can take them.
All right. We had a motion and a second to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same thing. Treasurer's report?
Can I make a motion?
You may.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the treasurer's report, pay the bills for September for $18,385.62, and receive and file the DDA budget spreadsheet, also the code enforcement activity report.
I'll support, but I do want to make a comment about the code enforcement. As some of you have noticed about the southwest quadrant parking lot and the problems that we're having with the dumpsters, the village is going to be going to a single hauler for grease and that, because apparently the businesses can't take care of themselves over there. And we are addressing the other complaint that was on there from that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call? That's right, because of the bill. Sorry.
Oh, Bizardi.
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Kremen, absent. Dunn, yes. Hunwig.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carried. New business. DDA board candidates.
Let me get there. All right, as you see the memo in front of you, per our DDA bylaws, each September shall be the annual meeting, and this meeting is to add board member appointments, vote on board of directors, officers, assess yearly goals and accomplishment, and perform strategic planning for the upcoming year. In August, we did update the yearly goals for the executive director. Strategic planning is scheduled with Main Street Oakland County in October per our tech visit with them, with the public visioning session, and then our own visioning session, which will take place at our board meeting. Currently, there are 3 board terms that are coming to an end. Mr. Rod Charles, Mr. Jerry Kremen, and Mr. Ed Hunwick. At this time, there are also 3 individuals who have expressed interest in serving on the board. Mr. Sam Barnum, Oxford Community Schools, Nancy Rosentreader, Vice President of the Oxford Bank, and Regina Woodson, owner of the AAA Woodson Family Insurance. So at this time, I'll let Regina and Sam introduce themselves in just a moment. If you have any questions for them, please ask them. If they have any questions for us, this is an opportunity for them to learn more about the DDA as well. And then we'll ask them to, we'll dismiss them, thank them for their time, dismiss them, because I think the board has, there's three options here, essentially, that you have. You can reappoint all of those currently serving, and this is just a recommendation to council. Ultimately, per the state statute and the ordinance, the appointment comes from the chief executive officer of the municipality, which is how it's worded. So in our case, that would be Susan Bassardet as the village council president. But that decision, that appointment needs to be affirmed by the council. So what we're doing this evening is a recommendation to council, to Sue, and to council of what we'd like to see. So you could reappoint everyone whose terms are ending. You could reappoint, or excuse me, appoint completely new folks to the board, or any combination of thereof. So say Ed wants to, work on some other things, you could fill just that role, or whatever combination. So my recommendation is we, review the credentials of the above candidates, and then it's ultimately up to the board to determine, and we'll have some discussion on what you guys think.
Sounds good. Bill?
Is there any of the board members that do not want to continue? That might be helpful for us. If they all want to continue, interviewing people is kind of a waste of time. So I would like to find out who would like to continue and who would not.
And I believe Sue has had conversations with most, if not all, and I'm not sure what.
Well, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
My position is if a business owner wants to be part of the board, I have no problem stepping down. I don't, do I want to stay on the board? Sure, I'll stay, but I think a business owner should have probably priority over my existence here on the board, but that's up to the board to decide.
Joe, have you or Sue talked to Jerry?
I have talked to Jerry, and he was going to get back to me with an answer, but he's kind of feeling like he would step down. That was my last conversation.
Okay.
He's really busy, and anyway.
How about Rod?
Rod?
I'll stay on the board.
Okay. And we have the two candidates over here. Go ahead and speak.
Yeah. I'd say ladies first, yeah. Good evening.
The podium?
The podium, because they're recording, and that way we pick up the sound. Yeah.
Good evening. I don't know if that made a difference, but I'm Regina Woodson, and as Joe said, I am the principal owner of the AAA agency just around the corner here. I opened in October 2014, so we're going on our second year. Prior to that, I worked 7 years for a nonprofit organization, which I listed on my application. It was a 110-acre site. For this organization, I was the assistant director of administration, so I had a lot of oversight in decisions concerning the campus, vendors, building, things like that. Prior to that, I have 10 years of experience at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. I have a degree in accounting with a minor in business administration, so I have a lot of exposure to running businesses. And I love being here in Oxford. And this last year, I've spent, seems like Joe and he would pop in ever so often, and we would talk about a lot of things. And so I am very, very much interested in preserving the historic feel of Oxford. I did work with Rod, I think, last year. I didn't have the availability this year for the Lone Ranger Parade, but we did work together last year with that. And so I'm very invested in this community. I do not live in Oxford. I live in Rochester Hills, but I am very vested in this community here. I'm married. I've been married 29 years. I have 3 adult children and 1 grandson. And I think that's about it. Any questions for me?
Rod?
I have photographic evidence of your participation.
Yes, with my 2 daughters.
You
and my
got some of it,
husband.
didn't you?
I'm sorry?
I think I sent you some, or you put some on
Yes.
Facebook. Yeah, they're great photos. It was really cute.
Very good. You have no issue with the Monday night meetings, third Monday meeting as we are?
No, no issues. I mean, I'm busy just like everyone else, but I can, yes, I will make the availability. Yes.
And are you available to participate on some of the committees that we have?
Yes.
And especially this M24 project, and I'll say it once, so I don't say it to Sam too. This is going to tie up a lot of Joe's hours for the next 2.5 years plus till we get the construction over with. And that means that people, not only on the committees but on the board, are going to have to step up and put more than just an hour a month towards some of these projects that are coming up. So there's going to be a request and an expectation of increased participation.
Okay.
Okay.
You get overtime pay.
Oh, I thought it was volunteer.
Yeah.
It's overtime that you're doing.
You get 1.5 times credit for the hours that you put in.
Oh, I see.
1.5 times 0.
Yep.
Equals 0, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Anything else for me?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for applying.
Yes,
Very much.
I appreciate it.
Sam?
Good evening, Board. Again, my name is Sam Barna. For those who don't know me, I am the Assistant Superintendent of both Business and Operations for Oxford Community Schools, going on my 2nd year with Oxford Community Schools. Actually, just like yourself, I too came from Blue Cross in my past. I worked for Blue Cross. I also have a background in finance. I have both an undergraduate degree as well as an MBA in finance from Michigan State University. And so I have a lot of years in both nonprofit as well as for-profit financial analysis and leadership. I also worked for Beaumont Hospital for a number of years in both financial and operational roles. Prior to me joining Oxford Schools, I actually worked for Dearborn Public Schools, which has a $185 million budget. Almost 4 times the size of Dearborn or of Oxford. So I'm used to working with large numbers as well as smaller numbers. So I'm also an individual who's not only used to being a leader, but also used to being a team member. And I think that I'm really used to getting along with others very well. Being conscious of the decisions that I make, putting myself on both sides of not only the decision being made, but also the individual or individuals who are making a decision for. So I just thought that that would be important. I also want to say that although I also am not a resident of Oxford, I live in Orion Township. Most of my time is spent here in Oxford, obviously being a leader within the organization, within Oxford Schools. I find that we do have a vested, obviously, interest. We are the largest employer. I work hand in hand with several of you, as you are all well aware, many of you are well aware. And I think I work rather transparent with all of you. And I think that I would lend that transparency as well as teamwork to the board. And, you know, again, I love downtown Oxford. Even though I don't live here, I am also a patron of the businesses here. I love the ambiance of downtown Oxford. And I think that I can assist in striking that chord and that delicate balance between historical preservation, which you're all trying to so desperately hang on to, which I think is vitally important, but also grow as a community as well. And so I think that I can lend some thought, some good thought to that, and hopefully progress Oxford downtown to the next step, whatever that may be. I just want to maybe add some things. Not only have a finance background, as I mentioned, I am actually a state of Michigan licensed builder as well. I have done some home remodeling on the side, and I love architecture as well, so I have an appreciation for it.
Design committee it is.
I'm sorry.
Design committee it is.
So I just wanted to add that as well. So again, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to put my name in, and obviously, I thank you for your consideration. So I'll take any questions that you may have for me.
Lou, do you have your question?
No, because I mean, are you available to put in the time
I am.
other than just once a month?
Absolutely. I obviously know that there's several committees as well that you obviously need some, individuals, supporting just not just 1 hour a month as you mentioned. I definitely am fully committed to doing that. Our board meetings are on Tuesday evenings. We obviously have, just as I'm very busy, as many of you are as well. Obviously, we have an upcoming non-homestead millage. However, I will say that I make time. I have 4 young children. They're all under the age of 12. They're used to me being gone quite a bit in the evenings, and frankly, I also, I spend a lot of time with them on the weekends and on holidays. So the bottom line is I'm definitely fully committed to working much more than 1 hour, attending a board meeting, and really just being that valuable member of the team if you so chose.
Thank you. Bill?
I'm really impressed with the candidates that we're getting. It really helps that they know how to count beans. This board got in a little trouble a couple of years ago by kind of running out of money. And we've been taking extra time to make sure that the money we spend is going to the right place at the right time. So it's nice to have bean counters, and I mean that affectionately.
Rod?
Yeah, Sam, I've had a few interactions with Sam. He's a pretty positive guy, and I think he's a great candidate for doing these things. He's been active in the school district, I know, and I certainly appreciate the things that you've done around the community as well. So both of you people are pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay.
And the fact that both of you are here, too.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
There's one other candidate who was unable to attend, and that is Nancy Rosentreter. She is the VP at Oxford Bank. For the last year, maybe a month or two, 13 months or so, she has sat on our promotions committee, has been very involved with the Scarecrow Festival and the Soup and Sweet Stroll. Oxford Bank is a sponsor of both of those events, and it's really through her advocacy that Oxford Bank is committed to not only sponsor those events financially, but also sponsor those events with volunteers. They're contributing a good portion of the volunteers this year for the Scarecrow Festival, and they also do the popcorn at the concerts in the park. All 12 evenings for concerts in the park, Oxford Bank had a presence. They had free popcorn, and they were handing out little sunglasses with their logo on it. Of course, it's a symbiotic relationship that they are getting their word out there and have restructured themselves as well. But it speaks volumes to Nancy's commitment to downtown and to the organization that she has served on a committee. She had a conflict this evening and sends her regrets.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So at this point, then, thank the two candidates, and
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
There's also another piece to this evening, and that's agenda item 8B, and that's the election of officers. So I left that intentionally vague on the memo as well, because I feel that it ought to be up to your peers to determine who's going to be chair and treasurer, et cetera, et cetera. Last year, we didn't have any interested board candidates. Part of that was because I had not networked in the community to the same extent as I have been in the past 13 months or so. September is pretty close to July, and I don't even think I met Sam until October or so of last year. So with that being said, You could table the discussion about, or set aside the nomination of officers to next month. And I say that because if you do have new board members, and certainly some of those new board members have skills that would be applicable to some of those officer positions or whatever. So I'm saying that on 8B, even though the bylaws say that, we shall do this, we're looking at it. My interpretation on that, I am no legal expert, I am not a lawyer. We've acted on it, we can table it, set it aside. That's my thinking, but again, ultimately, both of these agenda points are up to the discretion of the board.
My preference would be that we would hold 8B off until November, and that way, depending if we get new board members and get them in October and give them a chance to get affiliated and then do the board nominations in November, would give it more time, I
How
think.
are we going to get them in October if we don't do anything tonight?
I'm just saying the board, the 8B, the officers.
You have to do it in November, though, right?
Pardon?
Wouldn't you have to do it in November, is what Bill's saying?
What I'm saying is hold off on nominating officers until November, because that way, if we get new people in here, they would be a chance to be on the board in October, and that would give them a month, and then in November, have election of officers.
And I will say that our October meeting will be the board portion of the visioning. So Main Street, Oakland County, and the consultant will be here for our board meeting. It'll be a little bit lengthier of a board meeting, perhaps an hour or at least 2 hours. So please, and we'll talk about that in greater detail. But, so we don't want to stack up the agenda too much. My hope would be that the October meeting, we would still approve the bills and do the necessities that we have to do, but a bulk of our meeting would be more of a work study kind of session style, where the consultant is telling us what the public input has been and gauge some of our ideas so we can do more of that strategic planning. So that's so November, if that's the will of the board, I think would be acceptable.
Bill?
What's the procedure for putting new people on? When is that going to happen? Is it recommended to the village council? So when are we going to do this?
October.
We're going to do this in October?
When is the next village council meeting?
October 11th, I think it is.
And that will be before our October meeting.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I think whatever the board decides this evening, or whatever the discussion is, and we should have a recommendation to Sue, to council on what board candidates we would like to see, what board members we'd like to see, I think, this evening. Because if it's not to the village council for their October 11th meeting, then that pushes us back
Pushes it
another
back to
month.
November, too.
And when is the date in November?
The village council meeting?
No, the DDA board
DDA.
meeting, it's the third, it'll probably be the Monday
Third-
before
it'd be the Monday
Thanksgiving.
before Thanksgiving, which is,
It would be the 21st.
the 21st.
There will be a township board meeting that day with new trustees.
That they should put somebody from the.
Day or
On Monday?
That's when they take office. They'll be sworn in and we have a township board meeting. I'm not in favor of kicking this down the road. Let's just do it.
Okay.
And certainly, the board, does not have an easy decision before them. We have quality board members, 3 of them whose terms are ending. We have 3 quality people who are interested. And again, your options are recommending all 3 for reappointment, recommending the appointment of all 3 new candidates, or any combination thereof.
If 2 of our board members are ambivalent or don't want to do it, I think that the 2 that showed up tonight were very impressive. And that makes sense to me, and then keep Rod on. Since he wants to do it.
So is that your motion?
Yeah, and I would encourage you, Susan, you're looking at me and that's great, but it's really to your peers, that have to make the decision, because ultimately, these are decisions that staff cannot make. I work for the board, I've done some of the legwork and networking and so forth, but this is up to you guys.
It's been moved, I don't run this meeting.
So is that a motion?
It's been moved by Susan
I'll support it.
and supported. Any discussion?
Oh, wait, hold on.
No, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Does this mean, is this my last meeting? I
Just
just,
severance check today.
what I'm saying is, I will work with whoever you point as treasurer. If they want, I can tell them what I've been doing and how the whole process works, in the transition. And then, obviously, you got two of them are here, got financial background, so they'll probably want to institute their own type of system in place, which is fine with me. I just show them what I've been doing, which is to take off of the CPA we hired 3 or 4, 5 years, 6 years ago.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Well, I think that, I personally would like you to stay on the org committee.
Oh,
I think
I'll
it
work with the
needs
committees. I'm just,
people.
that's fine. I have no problem working on the committees.
Bill?
For the purposes of, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chairman, but for the purposes of the minutes, what was the exact wording of the motion?
To recommend to the village council the appointment of those two individuals,
With a reappointment.
with Rod Charles. Did I do good for you?
You did. That was good.
Let me ask one more question.
You may.
What is the maximum number to have on this board? Because we've never even been close to having all that we could.
There is some discrepancy between our bylaws and our ordinance, what that number should be. If you have your handbook with you, if you wanted to take a look at it.
While he's looking that up, can I make a statement?
Yes, you may.
That I don't expect to be on the board after November 21st. I expect another board, township trustee to take my place, but again, if you would like to continue working on a committee, Ed, I'd like to work with you.
Yeah.
Will they need volunteers?
Yeah, no, I'll be active with the DDA board and the organization itself, especially going up through the 24 project. I have no problem with that.
Your help would be appreciated on a committee.
Yeah, we're gonna miss your humor.
You talking to me? You talking to me? I don't know how to take that.
The ordinance, assuming this is the most up-to-date version of the ordinance in here, says that the Board of Directors shall consist of the village president and 12 members appointed by the village president, subject to the approval of the village council. That's in the ordinance. The bylaws, which how
many have we got?
9.
9.
That's what the bylaws say.
Sounds like you like to drive up at the A&W.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it here. The state statute gives us the flexibility to decide as a municipality between 9 or 12 or any number in between. I'm trying to find it here in the bylaws, but I do recall at one point looking at it, and there was a discrepancy between the two. And that is perhaps something that should be addressed with.
I believe the bylaws say 9.
I believe the bylaws say 9. Yes, here they are. The DDA board is comprised of 9. 8 of the DDA board members shall be appointed by the municipality. The remaining board member shall be the executive officer of the municipality. So in our case, the village president.
Is it village president only, or is it village manager, or is it either or?
No.
President?
President.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor.
We'd have to look in the, I believe it is, because ultimately the staff, I think is what you're referring to, the management works for the board works for the council. Staff could, even in my case, staff could come and go at the will of the council, while, and again, I'm, just to reiterate, I'm not an attorney here, but this is just my understanding of how it works. Sue, being that she's an elected official, is the executive of the village.
Ready for the motion? Everybody clear on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The second part of 8B, are we in a concurrence with holding that off till November?
No, let's do it now.
Officers?
Let's do it now.
Just gonna throw them under the bus and they don't even know yet?
Yeah, I
Is
think,
that kind of what?
Well, you can leave one, open or two, but I think that you need to,
And I think that we ought to gauge, as new board members, there's going to be a lot on their plate and minds to digest what a TIF district is and what our boundaries are, things like that. So perhaps there could be I recommend that maybe we gauge what their interest is in serving in the role of an officer is first. We don't want to, throw them into a position that they're not quite ready for.
I think that was a
However-
prerequisite for me to be on the board, is that I would take the position of treasurer. If I didn't, then I couldn't go on the board.
However, obviously, both of them have a certain skill set and
Experience,
knowledge
so.
there, so.
I think Sam in particular has that skill
Yeah.
set.
I got a motion.
Mr. Dunn?
I'll make a motion for chairman is Sue Bazardi, vice chair Dorothy Johnson, and Susan Scher is secretary.
Is that your humor?
No, that's the funny side coming out. You're gonna love it. Is there any support?
I'll support that.
All right, I felt it.
Everybody clear?
Do you not want to be chair anymore?
Go along with it, that works for me.
Oh, okay.
Now,
I've had 2 terms.
I do have one question, and I do not have the answer to this, but with Sue being in the role that she is in, as she is on this because by virtue of her being village council president, if after the election this fall, there is a change in her role, that would leave us, we're appointing Sue to chair, not necessarily the village council president, so that would leave a vacancy should she not be village council
Then
president.
we have another
following the
election of officers, or officer.
And that would be fine, just so that the board is aware that, Bill and Sue could potentially be in different roles, later on this fall.
Rod?
Sue, what's the criteria for being village president, council president?
You have to be a real kiss butt.
yeah.
You have to get some votes.
There isn't.
Brown nose.
Just like there isn't any to get elected to village council except be 18 and a resident of the village. For 6 months, I think. Unfortunately.
All right, any other questions?
Just asking a question, just so I'm making sure there was no issue. Is there any conflict with her being chair here and being president of the council?
I don't know.
Yeah, that might be dicey too.
I've never heard of any, but
If not, we'll make another motion next month.
I don't have the answer to that, I don't know.
What's the motion?
Ready for the question?
I'll support the motion.
I think there was a support from.
There was?
from
Okay.
Pete.
Support, yep.
Yeah, Pete supported, right?
Yep, I supported it. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Seamless.
There you go. East Burdick Street Development, PUD update.
these, it's opposite in the agenda, I think.
Yeah, I just realized that it was,
It's right after the SHPO one.
that confused me for a moment as well. So,
I know.
just misplaced in the stack. So the redevelopment of the DDA-owned parcels on East Burdick Street, as we all know, have been a long time in the making. Originally, these parcels were obtained to provide additional parking along the Mill Street corridor. And this current project redevelops the vacant parcels and creates additional public parking. The core of this project is a land swap incentive from the DDA to Mr. Weckel and vice versa. You may recall from our original reading of the PUD and the agreement back in November, he is going to build parking. He's going to get that legally described and become one entity. Once that happens, it will be swapped for our parcels for the parking. And the PUD agreement is a culmination of the planning and discussions throughout this process. Was drafted by Chris Corey, the village planner, reviewed by Bob Davis, the village attorney, reviewed by Mr. Weckel, and it's now at the point where it's gone through the process. Mr. Weckel has complied with the Planning Commission and gone through the steps there as far as, I don't know why I'm making all these big motions, but site plan, it's a big site plan approval. And as a result, the original PUD that you guys took a look at in November has changed to the extent that there are items that were included in the site plan that have now been incorporated into the PUD to really hold Mr. Weckel to what he's going to be doing. The PUD, from a planning standpoint, essentially becomes the zoning of those parcels. So in November of 2015, almost a year ago now, we approved the original final draft of the PUD agreement, and as a result of site plan needs, requirements, and public and planning commission input, the PUD has been amended to include those various considerations. The core of the agreement has remained unchanged, and especially that land swap mechanism. That's really our part of it. We're not so concerned with site plan and things like that. We do want quality design, et cetera, but we have gotten that. And so at this time, the staff recommendation is to review the documents that you have, the PUD. It also includes copies of the site plans. And I assume that we can probably do just a motion, receive and file. We're getting the final product now, but it does have to be authorized, it has to be signed by the DDA. So my recommendation for an action would be a motion to receive and file the final PUD agreement.
So moved.
And authorize the executive director, Joe Frost, to sign on behalf of the DDA.
I'll support, but I have a question. How long does the developer have to start construction, put a shovel in the ground before this deal on the land swap becomes void, or is there a time frame?
There is a time frame.
What page was it?
Let me find it.
Did you,
What's that, 18,
it's up at the top of the
2018?
page or
First
something?
building has to be January 1st, 2018, the second January 1st, 2019, third building
Right.
January 1st, 2019.
That's right.
Completed or
Began.
began?
Begin.
Yeah, that's, permits shall be obtained.
Okay.
Yeah, number 17, all building permits for the building at 36 East Burdick, which is the southeast corner of Mill and Burdick, shall be obtained prior to January 1st, 2018.
In talking to Mr. Weckel, he wants to move much quicker than that.
To answer your question?
Yeah, the other, I had two parts. If he decides to sell that whole project before he finishes or completes it, or even gets started, does the swap still go with it?
Yes, because as long as the parking is really the trigger for the land swap. The parking will be constructed, he gives the parking to us, it is now public parking, and then we give the parcels of land. If for some reason he doesn't finish one of his buildings, well, we still got public parking out of the project.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The Constance in the Park survey?
Actually, if we could go back, Mr. Chairman,
Whoops.
to the, oh, yeah, oh, gosh. that
That's
is
the
out-
next one in
that
line.
is out of order.
Yep.
My apologies. So each year, we host the Concerts in the Park series. This weekly event takes place on Thursdays, June through August. It has two parts, open mic a session to highlight local talent, encourage involvement, and then the main act goes on at 7 p.m. Main acts are usually musicians and bands who are locally, but in some cases even regionally. And in the case of the Tommy Steele Band, nationally known. He's certainly an up-and-coming person in the country music field. Attendance at these concerts have varied varied depending on weather conditions, interests in the performers, but generally concerts on the low end have been approximately 100 attendees, on the high end about 200 attendees. And there's really no scientific way that I calculated that other than at the concerts I stood there and sort of bobbed my head and counted those individuals. In recent years, the concerts in the park have taken on more of a festival-style atmosphere. Last year, the Oxford Open Air Market, the Farmers Market, began setting up to vend, and they did that this year as well. Oxford Bank, our sponsor, one of our sponsors, is there each week, offers popcorn to the concert goers, little, trinkets, sunglasses and things like that. And Mr. Young hosts a booth that offers balloon animals and, for the younger folks. So this year, I conducted a survey to determine the effectiveness of the series as an economic development tool. Obviously, we all know that our mission of the DDA Main Street is to promote, develop, and preserve downtown Oxford, and ensuring that our events fulfill that mission is critical to the success of the organization and the development of downtown. So the following report expands upon the survey that was conducted, and I conclude based on the data that the series is indeed fulfilling its objectives. It's bringing people downtown. And we can talk in a little bit in greater detail about some of those numbers. But in a moment, my recommendation is to review, discuss, and receive and file. So very simply, there is a copy of the survey that was given out. The promotions committee took a look at this. We added a couple questions, expanded on a couple things. But you can see there that it's a single page. How did you hear about concerts in the park? Check all that apply. How many times did you attend? What else did you do downtown because of concerts? Shop, dine, see a movie, other. How did you get to concerts? Which was interesting. And this kind of goes to the walkability of downtown. Most people who took this survey actually drove to the concerts rather than walked. Who was your favorite band at the concerts? And then there's a space for open-ended comments. So 2 surveys were conducted, one on August 11th during the Brother Crow concert. There's approximately 90 people in attendance. 38 surveys were returned. The weather conditions were very hot and humid. It was 93 degrees, and scattered showers had been forecasted. So it looked kind of gloomy. It was kind of one of those hot, humid days. And then August 18th, during the Zippity Two Dads concert, approximately 150 in attendance. 19 surveys were returned. The lower number could be attributed to many of the people that were there had already taken the survey at that previous date. Weather conditions were sunny and pleasant. I didn't get how many degrees the temperature was, but you can see here we had 57 total surveys. I approached folks and gave them my name, said good evening, who I was. Let them know that the DDA hosts the series. Would you please complete a survey? Let us know how concerts are doing. And I thanked them, and then I just let them do it at their own time. Some people brought them back to me, or had their youngsters run the survey back to me, or they flagged me down, or whatever. So 95% of the people who responded, so 54, responded that they did something else in downtown as a result of the concert series. The number one response was that they dined in downtown as a result of concerts. 11 responded that they attended a movie as a result of the concerts. 12 responded that they shopped as a result of the concerts. So some of those folks, and as you can see from the survey, you had the ability to check more than one answer. So some people said that they shopped, dined, and saw a movie. Others just answered one or two of those. You can kind of get an idea of attendance. There were 8 people who said that they attended 10 or more times. There were 10 people who said that they attended concerts 2 times, and 14, or about 25% of the respondents were attending concerts for the first time the evening that they took the surveys. 48 or 84% of the respondents drove to concerts. Meanwhile, 13, less than a quarter, walked to the concerts. So it gives us kind of an indication of our walkability to a certain extent. The most favored bands, and you can see the question was open-ended. Favorite band who performed at concerts was Denise Davis and the Motor City Sensations, Tommy Steele Band, and Brother Crow. However, Brother Crow I'm skeptical at because you can see that was one of the concerts we did the survey. And that particular evening, Brother Crow was written down as the favored band. So there, of course, is some, this is not an exact science by any means. Here are the comments. There were mostly, as you can see, positive comments. There were a couple negative comments. One stated, and I won't call them out in a public meeting, that such and such band was not as good as they've been in years past. But for the most part, everybody loves the idea. Keep it going. It's a fun night. Very nice job. Really love the community atmosphere. A lot of comments related to the open mic session, that they love that. When we first talked about doing the survey, I recall, Rod, you asked, can we find out why people are not attending? I really had to brainstorm a little bit on how do we gauge responses from people who aren't there. But I put it up on our Facebook page, just real simple. Hey, concerts in the park happen on Thursdays. If you are not attending, why not? And we got 5 or 6 responses via comments. I said reply in the comments. One comment was that they love the idea. They're busy on Thursdays. They always forget. Other comments were mostly weather related. It's just too hot, too humid to set in the park for a concert. So with that, I think that the concerts are doing what they should be doing. Kind of based on this survey, we can conclude that concerts are having a positive impact in downtown. 95% of those reported doing other activities downtown as a result of the concerts. It provides an attraction downtown for 11 evenings, June through August. And my hope is that the promotions committee will take a closer look at these once we start planning for next year and determine future plans and further build the capacity.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Dunn?
I move to receive and file.
Support.
Been moved and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same thing. National Register of Historic Places?
And Ed had the support on that?
Yep.
Yes.
No, I won't read this all verbatim, but the National Register was created in 1966 as part of the National Historic Preservation Act, and it is a list of culturally and historically significant places throughout the nation. Properties are listed in one of two ways, either individually, meaning that home or building or even feat of engineering, a bridge or whatever, has significance in and of itself, that it is important enough to place on the register, significant enough. Another way is through listing of a district. In a district, you have contributing and non-contributing buildings. Contributing buildings are those who retain their architectural integrity and historical character and charm, and non-contributing buildings are those that are modern. That although they may be compatible, they are modern buildings. They don't have the same traditional building materials and so forth. So say in our downtown, the Ox Bar building there, that would be a non-contributing building, whereas Sullivan's would be a contributing building, or Dorothy Johnson's would be a contributing building, because they still retain that architectural character. So earlier this year, and part of the design work plan, we conducted the survey, as you all know, and the National Register nomination is a lengthy process, and generally one that involves an architectural historian as a consultant. It takes time to write. It takes time to do the research, takes time to write the architectural descriptions, the consultant liaisons with the State Preservation Office, and generally the process can take up to a year, if not longer, depending on how many applications are going through the process. And ultimately, it's all reviewed by the State Preservation Office. They give their approval, and then a nomination gets sent on. They're all standardized forms. It gets sent on to the National Park Service, who gives their final approval, and then it's placed on the National Register as a district or individual. So what we have before us today, through the discussions with the State Preservation Office to determine whether or not downtown was even eligible, I was made aware of this program, which very short window of opportunity, and this is why we're almost kind of doing this backwards in a certain sense. I've already talked to the Village Council and have a resolution. The reason behind that was because we received this application the Thursday before the Village Council meeting, and the deadline for this is September 30th of this month. So had I brought it to you folks first and then waited to take it to the Village Council, we would have missed the deadline for this program. Now, this program, in a nutshell, is that we apply, and the State Historic Preservation Office is selecting 3 communities, 3 traditional downtown commercial districts statewide. So it's a highly competitive process, but they will take the lead on everything, issuing the request for proposals to the consultants. They will fund through their funds, so at no cost to the community. They will have a contract with a consultant, architectural historian, and go through that process. So if we get it, it's a win for the community that we could get our downtown placed on the National Register at no cost. If we don't get it, that's okay. It doesn't mean that we're not eligible. It just means that if we wanted to hire a consultant on our own time and on our own funds, that would be another way of doing it. Generally, the input that I've had from architectural consultants in Southeast Michigan is that a district of our size, a nomination cost is running about $30,000.
Wow.
And so for the State Preservation Office to take the lead on that, obviously that reduces that burden on us. There are advantages to the National Register. Historic preservation tax credits are available for buildings that are contributing to a district, and there's a process in that. But once a building it's easier to apply for those credits if the building is already listed on the National Register as opposed to if it's not. There are misconceptions about the National Register of Historic Places, and part of the application asks, what will we be doing as a community to educate individuals and the public about this? The major misconception is that the National Register is telling you what you can and can't do with your property. It's design review and all those things, and that is not so. There's no mechanism within the National Register or the National Preservation Act for federal design review. It is a misconception. There is, however, when federal dollars are being spent, say like with the M24 project, there'll be a lot of federal money behind that, it triggers what's called a Section 106 review. We're getting into too much detail, but it ensures that when federal money is spent, historic buildings that are eligible or listed are not adversely affected. We're eligible, so even if we're not listed, MDOT is already doing all their reviews that are necessary. So the advantage here is that it's an economic development tool. It's bragging rights. We can say that downtown Oxford is historic. You know, we sometimes call it historic now, but technically, if it's not listed on the National Register or hasn't been designated by a local historic commission, it's not indeed historic. So
We have to say historic like.
historic light or old, traditional is the word I like to use. So, so that's the program in a nutshell. And there's certainly more education that needs to be had. In May, I did a historic preservation talk at the library. The library has asked me to do a fireside chat in January about historic preservation in general, and I think this is a good topic. And so what we need at this point is to adopt the supporting resolution for the nomination. There's something wrong with that wording there. Motion to adopt the supporting resolution for nomination to designate the downtown district to the National Register of Historic
Rod?
Places.
So moved.
I would like to make that motion right now.
Do you want to second it?
I'll support it, yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same thing. Very good.
If I knew it was going to be that easy, I wouldn't talk so much.
All right,
Thank you.
good job.
Yep.
21 North Washington Street, facade grant application.
This is exciting.
29 North Washington Street. I've been in conversations with the owner, Rob Junkai. I believe that's how I pronounce his name, but I apologize if I'm slaughtering it. He's not here tonight. But we met initially in April to discuss a facade grant. That, for those of you who don't know where that address is, that is the Villa de Gucci, new Villa de Gucci location. And we submitted an application to Main Street Oakland County to their design assistance program, and you see the concept designs there. Since then, those designs have been developed, a scope of work has been included in your packet, and those details are all there. So the owner is seeking a facade grant to assist in the overall cost for the project for the east elevation only. So that's the front, the street side only. The scope of work and cost estimate are included.
I'm excited.
The challenge with this project
Glass.
has been with obtaining quotes from qualified contractors. I sat down with the applicant. We both had our phones out. We had a list from Main Street, Oakland County of contractors. We also had the Michigan Historic Preservation Network's Historic Resource Guide, which is a list of consultants and contractors, et cetera. And between the two of us, we called about a dozen contractors. He met with a contractor on August 27th, on a Saturday, and we are still, to this day, waiting for that quote. So it's been very difficult to pin down a contractor, number one, who was interested in the project, and number two, who was knowledgeable with historic storefronts. So a lot of them they're just in high demand, and they don't want to, do a smaller project like this. At the time of this memo being written, and still at this meeting, I'm still awaiting a copy of the quote, but the applicant did receive a verbal quote for $40,000 for the facade restoration, and a quote for $1,500 for the awning. Because of timing, let me continue. The project will have a significant impact on the historic character of downtown Oxford the removal of the current plywood cover on that building, and the restoration of the storefront would make a stunning before and after. The applicant has followed our guidelines and recommendations to a degree above and beyond what previous applications have done. The design committee and staff would love to see a conditional approval on this project pending a contractor's quote. And the problem is this, and it's sort of a timing issue. Say we get the quote, the written quote from a contractor tomorrow, say we don't act on it, say it's not even on the agenda tonight, we get a quote tomorrow, he has to wait until the third Monday of October to get an approval before work can begin, and then we're most definitely in the cold season. If we do a conditional approval tonight, and then he gets the contractor's bid, say, next week, and we consider that the receipt of that contractor's bid as the date of approval, the time of approval, then he would be able to get started right away, get some of this done. This is not that lengthy of a project, so if we can get it done in the good months of, hopefully October, then he wouldn't have to wait till spring. Ultimately, all of our facade and sign grants are at the discretion of the board. So don't feel pressured, don't feel in any way that you have to approve this or conditionally approve it. It is ultimately up to you folks either way. But one option is to, as you can see in the suggested action, and again, this is just, you can amend any of this, is to conditionally approve the application in the amount of 50% of the total project cost, not to exceed $15,000. He does not want to spend 40. He has told me that he'd prefer to stay closer to the 30 range, but half of 30 if we wanted to incentivize the project, and we wanted to go all in, half of 30 would be 15. Now, I say go all in because that is the entirety of our facade grant budget for this fiscal year. I think that based on what we see in the designs, based on his commitment to the project, an all-in incentive is a good approach. But if we get another applicant, say in the spring, they would have to wait until our fiscal year changes over in July.
His decision to go forward with this project is based on how we decide on his grant?
I don't know if I have the answer to that. We've always talked as if we would, we'd love to incentivize it. It's ultimately up to the board. It's a reimbursable grant, as we all know, so either way, he has to spend the total project cost anyways, whether we approve the grant or not. It would certainly help out, and it would certainly put our name on the project if, we approved it. So I don't know if that answers your question, Ed, but I've never asked him, hey, if we don't give you this, is it going to happen? He's never said yes or no. I think if we don't approve it, it won't happen like you see in the drawings. It won't happen with the historic character in mind. I don't have a real answer to that question.
Well, I think it really, what is this glass called?
It's called Carrera glass, and
Yeah.
I don't have the image. I should have brought the image with me, but there's an image from about the mid-20th century, and you can see that it's black glass that the storefront is made out of, with aluminum frame of the windows and so forth. Probably something that you saw installed in the 1930s or so. From what we can tell and what the Main Street design team could tell, that glass is still under there in some places. And so if some of the question mark and cost is if we get under there, what's left of that glass? If a lot of it's intact, then it will remain, and pieces can be maybe moved around a little bit and worked out. If it's not intact, then we can go with a comparable material, or, a black, and that's why you see in the design, they chose the black on the storefront to kind of mimic that Carrera glass. Carrera glass is really an incredible material. It's kind of expensive. You don't see it anymore. Generally, in the 20th century, it was all ripped off and went to the landfill or wherever it went.
Brad?
I like it, it looks nice, and I think this is why DDAs exist, of course. Have you had any conversations with Mark or with Jerry?
I've not talked to Jerry, and I've not talked to Mark, but the applicant said that he had talked to Mark, and Mark had joked that he was going to make his building look bad. Your building's going to look so good that my building's going to look bad. So he did not express any dissatisfaction with this initiative.
Yeah, because we had, when Jerry was commenting
Yeah,
before
that's
about
right.
the signs, I thought,
And then the building immediately to the south of that is the Real Estate Gives office, which is for sale, and the applicant is a realtor with that company, and they don't have any issue with the facade project either.
Ed?
Well, he's under the impression that the monies won't be reimbursed him until he's completed, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Sue?
Well, I think that this makes a real statement in that block. To have that building restored, and actually, all of them now look pretty good along in there, which is nice.
So what's your pleasure?
That canopy isn't blocking signs, is it, or anything like that?
No,
No.
so you can ask about the flowers in front.
no, I like them. I love the back of the building, too. I think
Just
this
make
is
sure they're not
exactly
fake, right?
something we should be doing. Oh, my God, no.
Put that as a prerequisite in the bid then? No plastic flowers?
And I like
so-
the idea of a bigger commitment for one project to make a real statement,
Yeah.
rather than a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here.
Ed?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to giving him, the approval beforehand, but I guess I wanted, is he going to do this the way it's on this picture?
We are going to attempt to. Some of that, again, is as the old plywood comes off, what's under there is still in question.
So how do we know what if he ends up doing something we don't like?
Well, we have a final approval mechanism, and so we do not disperse any funds until the project is completed and there's a report from staff to you folks that it has been satisfied to.
But yeah, but if we give him pre-approval, then he's
Conditional
going,
pre-approval.
it's going to be conditional on subjective opinion on whether we like it or not?
You can't go changing it around and making
Well, that's
it-
what I'm trying to understand. If he does what he's doing here, then,
Yeah, with all of our facade grants, there's a final approval before we disperse a check, because staff needs to review that invoices have been paid, canceled checks we have copies of those to prove that it has been done, and then the design committee, as I can recall, I don't have it in front of me, gets to take a look at the project too and say, okay, this does meet what was proposed, or, gosh, this material had to be changed because of availability of Carrera glass or whatever. So we ensure as a board that the intent of the project has been completed, and then we give a final approval to disperse the funds.
Joe, when would that happen? When's this?
So from the point of an approval, we have 6 months that needs to be completed. Now, the applicant can request an extension should the project need an extension.
So we basically would suck up all the money for 6 months, holding it just to see? I mean, that's a downside, right?
That is the
Committee, yes.
downside, yep.
but it is our entire facade grant budget.
Correct.
So this particular business will get everything that we have budgeted for the,
Next 6 months, yeah.
yeah.
Next 10 months.
Really until July.
Till July.
Till July.
At this point, this is the only application that is in the pipeline, so to speak, that has talked to me. And again, you're under no obligation to give, the max 15,000. You could set that number anywhere you want. You could even say, hey, we don't have an accurate count here, we don't have an accurate bid, we want a little more detail or whatever. So again, it's at your discretion.
Dorothy?
I have a question. I guess back in the day, because I did a facade grant, and I thought the maximum a business could get was 10 matched funds, so 20 over, the whole project was like 20, maximum 10 per, but that was 10.
I think that was
plus years
changed
ago.
quite a
Was it
while
changed?
ago.
Okay.
The sign grant says that there's 1,500 maximum for the sign grant. I don't have the, that in front of me. I don't know if it's in the,
Is that because of
No, I think it was changed, though. Not just recently, I think it was changed
A while ago.
a while ago to, the 10,000 was taken out, in other words, I believe.
I think we started on that when
it's not in here yet.
Jenny was.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me,
Okay.
but I
No
can
worries.
double check if you'd like.
Can we split the grant in 2 different fiscal years? So if somebody else comes in with another request, there's something left in the pot?
Will be after June.
It'd be a new budget after July 1st.
Well, he's saying this is going to be a 6-month project?
Well, our hope would,
He has up to
He has up
6
to 6
months to
months to
start
complete
it.
Complete it.
But I thought you said you thought it was going to be it would be close to 6 months before you get, or maybe I misunderstood what you said.
I think you
I think he
misunderstood.
was-
Okay.
Ideally, if we had a bid from a contractor tomorrow, the project would start next week and be done hopefully within the month. But per the guidelines of our facade grant, an applicant has 6 months to complete it or needs to
Right.
request an extension.
Can we change that for our particular project? I mean, if we're, let's say, right now, close to October, say by February or something like that, as an incentive to move things along? Is the delay not finding a good contractor?
That's correct. That's the delay. And the delay is that we're still waiting on a quote from the contractor that he talked to. And I told him today, I said, well, just because we get a quote from this guy does not mean that he's our go-to guy if it's taken 3 weeks to get a quote.
And the contractor has to be somebody familiar with certain factors, right?
It doesn't necessarily have to, I mean, it needs to be somebody who can take a look at the concept plans and understand the vision, and be willing to, continue the dialogue so he's not using, the incorrect mortar on the brick or whatever,
Not destroying the
not
glass
destroy
by
the
taking the...
character. And
My little place, I remember tearing out a ceiling and then tearing out another ceiling inside there, and then finding windows that no one knew were there. They were covered up by boards.
And so some of that is a question mark, and that's why the verbal quote he got was on the high end, because we don't really know
What's under there?
is under there yet. If it's a simple, all the glass is gone, okay, then we do some tuck pointing and fix up the brick that's remaining, build out some trim and stuff like that. So there is some flexibility in the design determined by what we find under there. So, ultimately, it's a timing thing, and I've been in almost constant contact with him, hey, Rob, do you have a quote yet? You have a quote? Because I want to ensure that he doesn't have to wait, another month to get an approval if he gets a quote in the interim. However, guidelines are guidelines, and in this particular case, we do not have a quote, which we require, if you will. So, it's a question of, do we want to be flexible? You had maybe said, can we change our, I would be hesitant to change everything, to say that, we'll give this guy a year, kind of thing. because then that opens up, a can of worms and sets a precedent.
Yeah, off the cuff, two thoughts on this matter. One is what Susan said about all in, let's do things the right way. Let's do a quality job. I think all of us here feel that way. We don't want some lousy job. We want something we can be proud of. So I like that concept. I'm a little uncomfortable with the ambiguity of this, though.
Sure.
It's kind of like we're buying a pig in a poke a little bit. I'm not faulting him because
Sure.
he's having difficulties. Is there some way where we can say, hey, we like what you're doing, we love the quality upgrade in the town here, we all want it to be a better and better town, but you need to give us something more concrete than a maybe if. I love the concept, like I said, I like the all-in idea, that's where we want to go.
Yeah,
But
and-
I feel uncomfortable with the ambiguity.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I had talked to him about, possibly him taking the plywood off, doing the selective demolition to see exactly what's under there, so that a contractor would have a better idea in the quote process, so, and that was something that he was kind of interested in.
And we just delay it until
But
spring.
But then how long would we have to look at that?
that's a good question, or we could just wait till spring,
Well, why can't we just wait till next month? If he's got a quote by then he can come back to the
or we can
board.
wait till next month.
Exactly.
I mean, is 30 days gonna make or break?
Well, the
whole-
weather, maybe.
Well,
Weather.
if
Well, the
we're,
weather, I
He's not gonna work
understand
on it
that,
anyhow.
but
No, but if he had if he gets the quote tomorrow, I think that's what Joe
that's my
said.
point, yeah, he gets the
If
quote
he gets
tomorrow or
it tomorrow,
Friday.
then he can start on it the next day and possibly even get it done for the month of October,
Well,
by the end of
I
October.
guess you
I
can
think
give him
that's-
some kind of feedback that the board is, very much supporting of what he wants to do. It just, we don't have the exact information, to act on.
I mean, could we issue a resolution, say we're in favor of what we see, but we just need to have some more concrete polls in front of us. So I think maybe some affirmation of support. 30 days doesn't seem that long. If you look at anything, I don't care if you're doing a bathroom in your house, by the time you get a quote and look at stuff like that, you've got 30 days before you know it.
Sure.
Be conditionally approving it pending them getting the contractor's quote,
Or do it in the spring.
Right.
one or the other.
I don't think
Well,
30
and we're
days is
committing
unreasonable.
I'm not so much worried, well, I want to make sure this comes out right, about the quote, because we're giving him the full amount, and we already know that it's going to be more than that.
And it's a
I mean, we already know that he's got a verbal thing of $40,000, and 15 is only half of 30, so he's going to have to assume more.
Assume more,
It's certainly not
yeah,
going to be less
potentially.
than.
Yeah.
And if it is, we only pay half of it anyway.
And it's a reimbursable grant anyway, so he'll have to demonstrate that he's paid the full amount of the total project cost,
Correct.
which is for all of our grants, and facade and sign grants. So I think my intent was, we're getting towards, yes, 30 days, and I agree with Rod, but because we're dealing with a facade, there are certain things that come November cannot happen depending on the weather. Painting, tuck pointing with mortar, things like that. Just because November's iffy, October's iffy, November's even iffier, and then at that point, we just wait till spring.
But the holdup isn't us.
The holdup is not us, that's correct.
Mr. Dunn?
I'll vote no on this because I'd rather see it wait until spring. If we tell them we're going to do it, but we have to have some things that come into line, like the bids or, no ambiguity, just to clear it up. There's no reason it can't, take off in March or April. That way we'd all have our ducks in a row.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So what I take
We're
is
being rushed with not enough information.
Absolutely.
look for a motion to set aside.
Is that what we're gonna do? If that's what we're gonna do, that's fine, I'll support that.
Was that a motion from Pete?
Yep. I'll make a motion that we set it aside until we get all the information.
I would mention that, the board is in support of it, but we just, again,
It was seconded by Unwick?
Ed.
but again, tell them, we're in support of the project, but we need enough information to make a good decision.
I think the positive would be an additional incentive to move things forward quickly.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
The sign grant application for 28 South Washington. You back up for 1 second, Joe. When I originally read that off the first time, on the agenda here, you have it as 21 North Washington for the facade.
Oh, yeah, it should read
29.
29.
Okay. Sign application. .28 South Washington.
So as many of you know, the Salvage Sisters business has been sold to Mr. Craig, I cannot pronounce his last name.
Shagina.
Shagina. And he was a vendor in there for some time. So his new business is going to be named Caveman and Pip, and it's a custom woodworking and home decor shop. It's in the location of the Salvage Sisters. The applicant has purchased the business and plans to open on October 1st. So enclosed is his application and a design. The colors on the design are not accurate because it's a natural wood. And so the way it's salvaged barn wood, and they're going to be laser cut. And so you have a contrasting of sort of colors or relief in that. So at the time that this was written, staff had not yet received a quote, but we're anticipating that today. And today I got two quotes. One for $3,500, another for $4,250.
This is the sun?
I think he's gonna carve it out of wood.
It's going to be carved out of wood. Yeah, so it'll be a relief kind of thing. So the request is for, our facade grant, or excuse me, our sign grant is up to $1,500 or half up to $1,500. Design committee took a look at this. They liked the design. They like the idea to incentivize this project. However, when we did receive the quotes this afternoon, there was maybe some question on the professional level of one of the quotes. Craig said that the one is from a friend of his that kind of does sign carving on the side kind of thing. And so the quote is written on, and I don't know if any of the design team pulled it up, but it's basically a receipt kind of looking thing, So there are two quotes. It is a reimbursable grant, just like with all of ours. So he would still have to demonstrate that he has paid it in the entirety via canceled checks. And so there is that aspect of it as a safeguard on our funds. But again, you folks it's at your discretion. If you like the design, like the attached documentation, and Caveman and Pip's kind of an interesting name. Pip, I guess, is his nickname for his daughter, 3-year-old. And he does salvaged barn wood kind of thing. Not that that has any bearing on the design or what you have in front of you, but just to give you a better idea of what the business is doing. So he salvages barn material to turn it into shabby chic and salvaged furniture and so forth.
Joe, has this been already, or has he gotten it checked out to make sure that the sign fits with the zoning and everything from the sign ordinance and everything?
It does. I talked to Chris Corey, the village planner earlier today, and he said everything fits within the models, and he has all the approval on that end.
Okay. Rod?
I'm just shocked at the price for the sign as I see rendered here. I'm just totally shocked. I I just can't believe, I'm not talking about the design issue
Sure.
or the composition, but
That was
we're
my
in the wrong
first-
business, man.
That
I'll
was
tell
my
you.
first impression, too.
$3,000 for some barnwood, and he's got,
The other one was 40-something, 4,000 something.
Yeah, and I don't know where the the DDA originally came up with the 1,500, but it's 1,500 or half, up to 1,500. So at some point, the board must have thought that 3,000 for a sign was reasonable
Well,
for us to
depending
cover
on
it.
what-
it's not so
The
much the
sign-
dollar amount, it's the sign here out of barnwood, 3,500 or $4,000, that seems,
I
I
mean,
wouldn't do
some
that.
signs could be perceived as being, bigger or more, but that
Sure.
surprised me too. It surprised me a lot. And I was a little just, I don't know, didn't like the fact that one of the receipts, anybody could go in and buy a book of receipts and mock it up. I just didn't think it seemed really legitimate. Or professional, I should say.
Do we have sorry, Pete,
Rod?
do we have the ability to say we want a certain number of quotes, so we're not getting one from personal friends or bids that are unreasonably high?
Yeah, technically, our guidelines say that we want 3 quotes. Per the facade, or excuse me, per the sign grant application.
And do those quotes have to come from somebody who's licensed in the business as opposed to somebody that just works out of their garage?
It says that work must be done by an insured contractor, but it doesn't specify if that's,
Well, insurance, most folks I would think who buy insurance are probably serious about being in business.
Or have receipts.
Are you making sense? Yeah,
You're thinking, so.
it's a lot of money.
I don't think it's our decision, or our point to make it a thing as far as the sign of value or not, is just basically if we like it and if we feel that we want to, give them up to $1,500 for it.
But we also say we want 3 quotes.
Right.
But we haven't held to that in the past.
Yeah, we haven't held to that in the past, and at one point, there was discussion, you may recall last year when there was a draft of updating the facade and sign grant, there was conversation that perhaps 3 quotes, we don't necessarily, if we have 3 quotes before us, we don't necessarily want the applicant to take the lowest quote, because that may not be the quality
you're
that we
right.
want. And there was some discussion about possibly changing that. It has never been changed in our process, in our application, but it is currently in there.
Can we wait till the sign is completed so we can actually see what it looks like?
No, because according to our guidelines, or our process, work can't begin until we've approved it.
Personally, I'd like to see another quote because I think these prices are outrageous. And if we're gonna suck up $1,500, if I'm wrong about the point price, then so be it. I even know a sign guy that does wood carving if he's interested. To help out, so.
Sure.
One of these things, I don't mind being wrong if that's the going price for a piece of barnwood sign.
I don't either.
He's going to open up October 1st, correct?
Yeah, he'd like to have the sign up by October 1st and open by October 1st.
Well, I mean, we're only gonna give up to 1,500 anyway, so if it comes in at 4,250 or if it comes in at $5,000, we're only
only gonna give
giving
them
1,500, right? Yeah,
Right.
so,
Even 3,000 seems kind of rich, doesn't it?
I don't know what it takes to carve something out of barnwood, I have no idea.
And if it's all laser cut or whatever, depending on how they do it.
That's cheap.
I know what it costs to get a plumber into my house.
That wasn't
Or an
cheap either.
electrician.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve this for 1,500.
All right, it's been
Get it
moved.
up.
Is there support?
I'll support it.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Oh. Bizardi,
Yes.
Charles,
No,
Hunwick,
I have to say no, I'm just not comfortable with it.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Sure.
No.
People keeping score here?
I am,
Yeah.
What is it?
3.
we have 3 no's currently.
How many yeses?
I wasn't counting the yeses, I was just counting the no's.
Your, what was it? What was your vote?
Yes.
Yours was yes,
People's money, Bill.
and that's 4.
There you go, bam.
Right?
Right, so
Yes,
it
four.
passed.
Motion carries. Old business, Scarecrow Festival.
Just more of an FYI than anything at all. Scarecrow Festival, as we all know, it's October 1st. We know the theme, Scarecrows, Halloween theme event, live music, trick-or-treating, vendors, etc. At this time, we've got sponsors with Oxford Bank as the presenting sponsor. Oxford Farm and Garden is a key sponsor, and while they do a lot of in-kind sponsoring, they set up, bounce houses and things like that. And then, as you can see from the flyer that is beginning to go out, Merged Art Studio, we do the hayride up there. Carrie puts on the costume contest, Century 21 affiliate, the Den Training Academy, Burdick Street Landscape, and the Oxford Tap. Century 21, the Den, Burdick Street, Oxford Tap, and Granite Home Design all gave $100 to sponsor this. So as part of the package, they get their name on the flyer, and they get a 10 by 10 space at the event. So really more of an FYI, there are some volunteer positions available. If you're interested in volunteering, please let me know. Oxford Bank is providing a good number of volunteers to help with this as well. So fingers crossed that the weather is good. I know as we begin to get into October, it can be kind of iffy.
I checked the weather.com. It looks really good for that Saturday.
Good, all the averages and stuff, excellent.
By the way, I have a college reunion that same day.
So that's all I have. So I think the suggested,
Yeah.
we can just receive and file that, or however,
All right.
whatever the board's pleasure is.
Main Street, Oakland County, tech visit, visioning
Did we
session.
make a motion to receive and file that?
Move.
Support.
Hold on.
I was just moving on.
Done and Basarda.
Gonna vote on it?
Aye, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same thing.
Okay, Main Street, Oakland County tech visit. This is all stuff we've seen before, but we do have the promotional flyers now that are out. Lee at Main Street and I sat down over lunch one day, kind of brainstormed what we thought we should call it. We're calling it Envision Downtown Oxford. Help us create a vision for downtown Oxford. Why? Well, you're essential part to downtown Oxford. This is your downtown. Share your ideas. This is for the community portion of the visioning. It will take place Wednesday, October 5th, 1 to 3, or both sessions will happen, and 6 to 8. So the or in there is that if you're a business owner or a working parent or whatever, there is some flexibility. You can attend either of those. When I talked to Lee the other day, she said that 28 individuals have already taken the survey that is on here. So if you cannot attend, there's also a survey to do that. So my thinking here is that maybe the board doesn't attend these sessions. And the reason I say that is because, granted, you are part of the public and you are residents and so forth, so, please attend if that's what you wish. But we will have our own session as a board on October 17th, the board meeting. I figured it's a good time. We're all committed to the third Monday anyways. We'll start our meeting at 6 p.m., run through the essentials that we need to get approvals on and so forth, and then go into more of a work session format. The consultant will kind of present on what public input we have gotten, and we'll kind of play around with that and share our own ideas. And the final product of all this is a report and some strategies, some overarching strategies to give us direction moving forward. That's pretty much it, I guess. So, and we'll take a look at our vision and mission statement and all that. I know we updated that last year. I was still pretty new at the time, and certainly have a better handle on downtown and my vision as staff person now than I did a year ago. And I think with the new board folks coming on, they will be at this meeting, so we can get some of their input as well and, kind of fine tune some things.
Sounds good.
So again, there's no action at this time other than an FYI.
Board member comments? Susan?
No comment.
None?
Sue?
I just wanted to say good job, Joe, on that preservation thing. Hopefully we'll get that. And Dorothy, the window looks great. Yeah, it really does. And that's it.
Rod?
The two things, Joe, good job. I look at the work here, the outline you did in preparation for this meeting, and then the work that Susan just said on the historic preservation. That's good stuff. So thank you very much. I think a lot of people appreciate that. I'm impressed that you did that.
Thank you.
Second comment, by the way, unrelated to that. Sam's here tonight, and one of the things that we found out this summer with the Lone Ranger Festival is the school system now is becoming part of our community again, which is kind of nice, and people like Sam are part of the reason that's going on. We have a school board election coming up, 9 people running for 3 seats. In school boards, there's always a tempest in a teapot, as Shakespeare would say. We do have a forum that several community organizers, as we like to call ourselves, are putting together, so I'd invite people to attend. I've got just a little sheet here to remind people. It's going to be at Waterstone. I have a sponsor who's covering most of the room rental. I'll cover part of it myself. But
When
there's
is that,
9
Rod?
people, 3 seats, so you want
When
to
is
pass that
that?
down?
Oh.
Little sheet right here I put together. The usual bevy of controversies. So I have one for Ashley and for Ron too, so. And Joe, sorry Joe, don't leave you out of this, you have kids.
That's right. I'm a registered voter here now.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the community.
Very good.
So,
Ed?
I just want to say that as a township resident, I always felt that the vitality of the downtown business district was just as important to the township as it was to the village. And I've been very appreciative to been able to participate here on the board for the last few years. And I hope everything goes well going forward. And I'm sure that with the M24 project, that things will get a lot better for the downtown district.
Very good. Dorothy?
And Joe, thanks for all your hard work on this packet. A lot of
Thanks.
great stuff. Yeah,
you.
a lot of info.
Ed, I want to thank you for the time that you have put in. I mean, you have been here for actually more than just a few years.
Yeah.
Through the bad times and the good times, and I was with your guidance and everything that helped move it forward. So I would definitely enjoyed working with you, and thank you for the time that you put in. Joe, thanks for the historic part of it. I think that's key to moving things forward. We've talked about that as one of the goals from the very beginning, so it's great to see it coming to fruition. So thank you very much. And Sue, you had a
Can I,
redo?
yeah, well, no, yeah. I just wanted to, because when you said that about Ed, and he took on a despicable job of being treasurer when they were having problems with the front office and everything, and I really appreciate his diligence at trying to get that solved and getting the money situation straightened out so that the trust has been built up again.
I would also like to extend a thank you also to Jerry Kremen. He's not here this evening, but I would like to make it public that he was a great asset to the board here and had a lot of good input for us, so I appreciate his help. And
I'll
with
move
that,
to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Support?
Support.
All in favor?
What will you do now with your third month?